Portland Wrestling 2000s. Now, here he is, your number one host, Frank Culbertson.
Hey wrestling fans, it's Frank Culbertson here on the Portland Wrestling 2000s YouTube channel. It is great to be here once again talking about the commission, and I am joined by probably the greatest wrestler in the history of Portland wrestling and around the world. It is Lynn Denton, the Grappler. Grappler, great to have you here today.
Man, what an introduction. The greatest wrestler in the history of Portland. There's so many great wrestlers came through there. Rather just to get mentioned in their name, I'm happy. You know what I mean? Along with those guys. I appreciate that, Frank.
Well, as people who watched the first part of the commission episode, that this is part two, we talked about having Lynn on right after Ed Moondog Moretti. But there was this little travel incident that happened. And Grappler, you got stuck in an airport for 2 days?
Oh, well, I was at the gathering trying to get back home the other day. And, well, first we had hurricane that hit Texas a few weeks ago. And then I blew the lights out. I was stuck with no lights for about 5 days. And then I went to the gathering, got over there, had a good time, started back home, and Hurricane Debbie came in. And they were canceling flight after flight after flight. And it took me about 2 days to get home. You know, it was crazy.
Well, my ex-wife's name is Debbie, and
Well, I got to get on a flight tomorrow going to Memphis. So I pray to God everything's over and all the flight delays. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about your background. You're a 7-time Pacific Northwest heavyweight champion, 11-time tag team champion. You were with a tag champion with Steve Dahl, Scotty the Body, Equalizer, Don Harris, Brian Crush Adams, and Abu Dean. So a lot of people know what a great run you had in Portland. But actually, let's talk about your history before that. You started in Texas as Lynn Denton in like 1977, isn't that right?
Yes, buddy. When I broke in, I trained for a year with this guy who had a wrestling school, and there was about 12 of us, and only 2 of us, another guy named Gary Young, remember Gary Young? He made it for a while in career in wrestling. Me and him was the only 2 that really made it, but he sent us to Amarillo because he had connections with guys out there in Amarillo. And me and Gary Young went to Amarillo. We were there. The first TV we did was in Amarillo, and I got my notice the first day. They said I was too small, so I got a 2-week notice the first day. I didn't even wrestle on TV. I said, we can't put you on. They're too small. They had guys like Abdul the Butcher in the dressing room, Psycho and Negro, Swede Hansen, all these guys. Here I am, I weighed 178 pounds. They looked at me, are you kidding? So, you're supposed to be a wrestler? And so the second night, I was booked in a town called Hereford, which is like 100 miles outside of town. And they call it Hereford, Texas for a reason, because you can smell the cattle barns about 10 miles before you get into town. I wrestled there, and I was booked with Sputnik Monroe. Oh. But he didn't show up. He was drunk somewhere. And so I got the booker, Art Nelson. The guy gave me the notice, and I'm telling you, Frank, I'm not exaggerating. We went to a 20-minute draw, 20 minutes, right to the time limit. And then he pinned me, but he took me down, and I never got off the mat for 20 minutes. He cross-faced me. He was going, you want to be a wrestler, huh, kid? You want to join our profession, huh, kid? I mean, stretch the shit out of me, man. So when all that was done, like 2 weeks, they had me refereeing and most of the matches and wrestling a couple just to get me some money so I could go home. On the last trip, they said, okay, kid, we want you're driving to Albuquerque, New Mexico, Amarillo, which is about 300 miles. We want you to take Abdullah. So here I am driving Abby. He's laying in the back seat of my car, and I'm driving like Mrs. Daisy, right? Driving Mrs. Daisy. And he goes, hey, baby, you know, he talks. Hey, baby, he taps me on the shoulder as we're leaving. He goes, when you get to Tucumcari, it's about halfway. Tucumcari, New Mexico, pull over. There's a great buffet right there. Wake me up. Make sure I don't sleep through it. I go, okay. Before we hit Tucumcari, I seen a sign, Tucumcari, 10 miles. He's tapped me on the shoulder. Hey, baby, he must have smelled it. So I drove to Albuquerque. I actually wrestled that last night. And then I got coming back, and on the way back, blew the engine in my car. So I got fired, got my notice. This is my dream of being a pro wrestler. Got my notice, blow the engine in my car. I was so down, brother. But Abdullah, the butcher, I just talked about it to him about this at the gathering. I said, you remember on the way back, you said, hey, look, make a letter to Dory Funk Jr., write it, sign it, seal it, somebody can open it and read it, throw it away. He goes and give it to the office before you leave. And he goes and tell him how bad, if there's any way he can help you and all that. And I did. And I was waiting on my car. I had borrowed $1,000 from my dad. You should have heard that conversation. What a pro wrestler. Oh my God. He was going crazy. And so I promise I'll pay you back, Daddy. So back. But so it was about 4 or 5 days. They were trying to hurry. They knew I was trying to leave, and they got a new engine, put it in, and I called my dad. He goes, hey, you need to hurry up and get your ass home. He goes, it's got to call Dory Funk Jr. You're booked for Bill Watts in Mid-South in 2 weeks. And that's where my career started.
There you go.
I got on I started taking some real strong vitamins, and hitting those weights. And I got big and here invented the grappler.
Yeah, those
I
vitamins.
said, you know what, these assholes, I'm going to get my money back. They're not going to treat me like this.
Oh. Well, from Texas, then you went to Georgia Championship Wrestling for a little while.
Well, no, I went to Florida next.
Went to Florida. Eventually,
yeah, I got when I went to Florida, Eddie Graham was still alive.
Oh.
Okay, okay, and so I went to Florida. My next territory, I was up to about 220. I was looking better, and I went to Florida, and Eddie Graham liked me, and he booked me every night, and he said. He come to me one time. One mistake I think I made is at the Eddie Graham Sports Arena in Orlando. He owned the building. It's a big old tin barn, what it was. But he's got a lot of famous stories from there. But I remember Eddie come up to me after a match. He put his arm around me and said, "Kid, you look good out there tonight." He goes, if you really learned this trade, you may be a world champion one day. And he said, but you need to go down into the snake pit and train with those guys. The snake pit in Florida was really stretched out. And I went, Eddie, here's how dumbass I was. I go, Eddie, I know all I need to know about the mat. I said, I want to be a good worker. He went, oh, okay. Just walked off. He never talked to me after that.
You knew everything you needed.
I went to Atlanta from there. They sent me to I think it's Greenville, South Carolina. They run every Monday or so, and I went there. Ole wanted to take a look at me because Ole had seen me on tape, and he was booking for Crockett, Mid-Atlantic, and he said, yeah. He said, I had a good match with Rudy K, and we went 20 minutes through, and he come back. When I come back, he goes, hey, you want to go work our territory? I said, hell yeah. He goes, I knew they were making good money, right? And I go, yeah. And he said, 2 weeks, you start whatever town I started in. So he got his book out, and that's the way it went,
And so when exactly in that, like I noticed looking at mostly 79 results, you're really the grappler at that point. When did you become the grappler under the hood?
What happened was I went to Charlotte there, and then I went from there to, I took a tour in Germany for 6 weeks. I did a tour over there. I came back, and I was supposed to get a big break at Knoxville. And then I went there, but it fell through. They never did nothing with me, right? So I was there about 6 weeks. And I went to of all places, Stu Hart's territory, okay, Calgary. And I was there about 8 months. But I knew I could work on top, over there. And I did work on top, but brother, it was a nightmare. But I survived it for about 8 months. And then I came back, and I went back to Charlotte. And the girl I was married to at the time, she's from Charlotte, Belmont, right outside of Charlotte. And I said, look, here's what we're going to do. It's been almost 4 years I've been in the business. They say the deal was back then, if you're not working on top main eventer in 4 years, you need to get another job. Unless you just want to be a job boy in this business,
Sure.
Somebody to. And so I said, I had made it. It's almost 4 years. I go, let me get this eight month run out of Crockett, because I knew I'd make pretty good money, save up, and we'll go back to Texas. And my dad was all still alive. He had a construction business going. I said, I'll go help Daddy. We'll make some money, and we'll just move back home to Texas. She goes, okay. And you can visit your family for about 8 months. While I was there, I went, I was in Norfolk, Virginia. I went to the gym. I come back, went and ate, come back, getting ready for the show that night to the hotel. And I'm walking down the lobby or down the, one of the aisles in the hotel, the hallways, and Gene, I can't think of his name right now. I think of it in a second. Anyway, back then we didn't have cell phones. We had his door open. It was Gene Lewis. What you heard of Gene Lewis? Gene Lewis is on the phone, and he goes, "Hey," and I walk by. I said, "Lenny." I said, "Yeah, I'll come back." He said, "What?" He said, "I got somebody on the phone wants to talk to you." I go, "Who?" He goes, "I got on the phone. Hey, this is Buck Robley," and he was booking from Watts, and I never even met Buck in my life. Now this is a true story, okay? I'm going back a little ways, but before that, like a week or so before that, me and Don Cornett, God bless him, he was a good friend of mine. Me and Don were riding down the road, and he had seen me wrestle when I was in Atlanta. Ole had me wrestle with a mask as a challenger,
Right.
and then as Lynn Denton. So we get, 2 jobs in one tape and get, the same money, of course. But anyway,
That's how promoters do it.
and there we do it. So I was learning. You kids, you're learning. Go out there and do it. So I was a challenger. He said, "I've seen you on 17, on channel 17, wrestling with a challenger mask, the blue mask." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "One of these days I'd like to wear a mask." And he was a Greco-Roman, really good wrestler, amateur. And he goes, "But I'd call myself." I said, "What would you call yourself, Don, if you wore a mask?" He said, "I call myself the Grappler." And so when Robley said, "Hey, this is Lynn Dennis," yeah, he goes, I don't know why I blurred that out. He goes, "Well, listen, I heard you're a good heel." He said, "You think you can help handle a spot on top?" He said, "We want a good heel that can wrestle like you do." I said, "Yeah, I can do it. I got it, Buck." He said, "Well, what do you call yourself?" I go, "The Grappler." It just came out. Since then, every time I'd see Don Cornett, he go, "You owe me residuals, you asshole." You've been using my name all these years. But, and that's how it all started. Then I got over there and Watts, they'd had a guy called Dr. X years before. When I was a kid in there, 2 or 3 years before, I'd seen Dr. X, and he had a loaded boot. But he came in for 2 or 3 weeks. He had heat with Watts, and he got fired. And so Watts says, "Okay, here's what we're going to do." And then, long story, a bunch of different things happened, but I had Watts was going to let me go. I'd been there about 2 months, and wanted to come over and said, "Bill flew in tonight just to watch you wrestle me." He said he snuck over and told me that you get fired if he caught you doing that back in the day.
Yeah.
He snuck over and said, "Lynn, you better give it hell." I said, "Just listen to me." And Watts liked it, and that's when we went and did the angle with DiBiase where he hurt my leg, and I left and came back with a loaded orthopedic boot.
Yeah.
That's how it all started, yeah.
So it really is an injury on your foot. It's not just a loaded boot. It really is orthopedic, isn't that right? That's what you told me for years.
Oh, that's what you believe. That's good.
Absolutely.
I must have been doing my job.
I want to give go back to like 1980. You're like 21 years old. You've only been in the business like a couple of years. You're working with against DiBiase, against a guy you know really well, Jake the Snake Roberts, and
Yeah.
you are in Mid-South and you win the North American heavyweight title. That had to be,
Right.
at 21, be something.
That was fantastic because back then that title they put on guys when they're grooming them for the world title. They used to put it on them and they'd bring guys in and fight. So they give it to me because he wanted a heel. See, he had Junkyard Dog and the Freebirds were in there and all those guys. He says, "I got enough table movers and furniture movers. I need a guy that wrestles." When he told me when I was there, he said, "Here's your job." He said, "You go at least 30 minutes every night." And he said, "At the top of my marquee says pro wrestling, and that's what you're here for. And I better see it or your ass is going down the road." I lost 30 pounds the first 4 months I was there. He was killing me, man. I was going 45-30, 45-30, stuff like that, in that heat,
Yeah, and you mentioned, and I'm going to put up some pictures here of some of these guys here. So you had Dusty Rhodes, you had Ted DiBiase, Junkyard Dog, Dick Murdoch, who was crazy.
Yeah.
Terry Garvin, Jake Roberts, I mentioned Wahoo McDaniel, and Paul Orndorff. You were wrestling the cream of the crop in pro wrestling at that time.
Oh, yeah, there was some good talent, man. And I learned a lot. And the first time that I wrestled in the Superdome was just, I couldn't believe it. We wrestled in a tag team tournament, and it was me and Scott Irwin who were tag partners, Super Destroyer at the time.
It was 22,000 people. You worked in front of 22,000 people. That's
Right.
unbelievable. Mid-South tag team titles, which were in the wrestling world a really big deal. And in the first round, you guys beat Jimmy Garvin and Jake Roberts.
Okay.
And then in the second round, you beat Andre and Dusty Rhodes, which is everybody thought they were going to win.
Okay, that's what. Yeah.
And then in the third tournament, you beat JYD and Dick Murdoch, where you pinned JYD. What's it like wrestling guys like Andre and Dusty as a tag team?
Well, Andre, well, it's so easy because the people just go crazy everything they do. But in that particular environment in the Superdome, Andre actually got excited. Okay, with that many people, and he shot me in. I'll never forget it. Goes backdrop, boss. Son, he launched my ass. I mean, you used to taking it from a regular guy. I didn't think I was ever coming down. I'm like, holy God, like he just launched me, right? And then, and Dusty is so easy to work with anyway. You know, everything he does, they get over. But it was just, it was like nothing. It was easy as heck. You know, all the guys I work with. JYD was the stiffest, of course. Murdoch's really good. He's, you know, if he wants to be, he can have the greatest match in the world with you. If he wants to screw it up, he can screw it up bad too.
Yeah.
But in that particular environment, in that house that I had there, he was working his ass off. He was having a good match, you know.
Yeah, and Bill Irwin was a great partner for you at that time.
That was Scott Irwin, not Bill.
I mean, Scott Irwin, yeah.
Yeah, Scott. He's passed away now, God bless. I love those Scott. He was a hell of a guy, man. He was a good guy.
And people who follow this channel know, I have a thing for masked wrestlers. That's when the interns and the medics, those were the first guys that I really started when I was a kid looking at the wrestling magazines.
I
Those
remember
were the
them
ones that
when I
got me
first
in.
broke in, Frank. They were in Louisiana when I was like left Amarillo, went there. Oh my God, dude. I used to look at them in that bar and I'm like, oh my God, I've seen these guys on TV. Yeah. I was scared to death, man.
And so right before we get to Portland, in 81, you guys, you form a new tag team called the Grapplers.
Yeah.
How did that come about that you two got put together?
Well, when I came back, that was my second run in Mid-South, okay? And I'd already done the loaded booty and did all the main events and all Superdomes and all. And so when I come back, he had this kid, Watts had this kid, Tony Anthony, and him and his buddy came in together. He was a good worker too. I'll think of a minute. But Tony, Watts came to me, he goes, hey, Lenny, he goes, what do you think about that kid? You think you could tag up, make him a tag team? I said, he's a good worker, man. I said, I'm sure he's going to learn some stuff about psychology and stuff, but he's got everything it takes, all the tools. He goes, get with him. I'm going to start tagging you guys together, and I want to see how it works. And so we got the same jackets and the same, and I loaned him a pair of my tights and a mask. He didn't have another. And the next week we're on TV as a grappler, you know? And so, and we gelled, me and him just gelled. It was really, we're a good tag team. I thought we were a good tag team, you know?
And we'll come back to that in a little bit because Jim Cornett is on his podcast, The Experience, talked about Dirty White Boys versus the Grapplers. So we're going to come back to that in a little bit. But because it's the commission and we want to talk about that, you're in Texas. You're then coming to Portland in September of 1987. Rip Oliver is about to leave to go to the WWF at the time, whatever it was at the time.
Yeah.
His cup of coffee there. But you were in Texas and you got a call to come to Portland. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I was in Texas. I'd been there about 8 or 9 months, I think. And I went through Kim Mantell brought me in, and he left, and then David Manning took it for a little bit, then Brody took the book. Right. Well, I'd been there 8 or 9 months, and I was in the middle of the card. I was a Texas heavyweight champ, but that wasn't their major belt. But it meant a lot in Texas. It meant a lot to me. But the Monarchs had the world titles and the world tag titles, you know, they created. And so it was time for me to go. Brody come to me and says, hey, he says, look, he goes, I'm wrestling at the Sportatorium in Dallas Friday night where they take, or I think Friday they take TV. And he goes, hey, Grapp, listen, you got Kevin tonight. And I go, well, how you want me to take it with a claw? He goes, yeah, right. He says, hey, I said, how long you want? He said, get about 10 or 12. I said, okay. So that was it, right? So then he come over before I went out and he goes, hey, look, you know, it's about time you'd be going. I said, yeah, I know. He goes, he said, they told me maybe 2 or 3 weeks, give you a notice. He said, if you get good juice tonight, he goes, I might get you some more time. I go, okay, brother. And I love Texas. I didn't want to leave. So I went, got a surgical, and I hit it hard, right? So I'm in the shower trying to get to stop bleeding. I got ice on it because I want to go to the bar. I don't want to get stitched. It's time to go party, dude. So I'm trying to get to stop, and it won't stop. All of a sudden, the shower curtain opens, and Frank goes like this, Lenny, hell of a job. I got you 6 more weeks, kid. I said, all right, good. Okay. But then I started looking around, and then out of the blue, Rip called me. He says, hey, Lenny, I'm leaving, going to WWF. I said, me and Joey Jackson and Dave Sierra, we promoted you to Don Owens. Come in and take over. You know, I said, hell, brother, I'd love to come to Portland, right? Because they were doing good, the short trips. I said, okay, yeah. And plus, I knew I could work on top again. And so I called Don and all that, or Don, he said Don wants you to call him. So I called Don, and we talked, and Don said, well, I'll get back to you. Well, Don called Geigel and Harley Race, which I had booked for before. They gave me a good recommendation, so he called back, hired me. So that's how that happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, so you would come in. It had been although Fidel is great, you know, Dave Sierra have done so much for Portland wrestling when he worked for me. Such a great guy, and still doing great stuff. But it wasn't quite the hot period that when you came in with a little bit of booking ideas that were a little bit different than what Rip had been putting on. And for at least 2 years, the territory really took off again because the wrestling landscape had been changing with WrestleMania and Hulk Hogan. But you really reinvigorated the Portland area with some pretty great tactics and storylines that really hadn't been done.
You know what, Frank? I have kind of give it. That's true. I come in and the guys have been there homesteading forever. You know what I mean? And so I kind of, the ones that I revived their gimmick or changed it around a little bit. And then I brought in new, different guys. But I tell you, when we had that one sellout, they were talking, you know, that one big sellout, that was the only time, like Vince was, you know, run his show in there. And that's the only time anybody had went. I went down to Channel 12 and bought time on his show and put a commercial on, plugging our show, and it sold that sucker out. I think that may have really, really helped because he had a lot of viewing audience, and everybody was scared to mess with Vince. I said, hell with him, he's killing us. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? He sat here and not fight back, you know?
Yeah, and Don was one of those that didn't really believe in promoting outside like that. He was old school. The people are going to come,
Right.
and the tide was changing. But
I had to beg him to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can believe that. So you had come from Texas. What was the commission? They had a commission in Texas. What was it like working with the Texas Commission?
Commission in Texas is they come and they check your blood pressure. If your blood pressure is okay, you're good to go. That's all they ever did.
But would they do it like once a month or before every match, or?
No, they would do it before every match.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of times in spot shows, they weren't there. You know, they're supposed to come every match. Most time it was the main matches because they wanted to see them.
Yeah.
You know,
Get in for free. Yeah.
Yeah. There wasn't no big deal, you know.
So you come to Portland, and the commission had been going over some new rules, and they had this whole new book that they had of rules.
But see, I was there a while before that it was instilled. And then it came along. I tried to warn Don when the guy came. I said, Don, I just left Texas. I've been in places where they have commission. If they want to be hard on you, they'd be real hard. You better open up, not be mean to this guy. The first thing he did was his son, Mark, at the concession stand. He asked for a cup of coffee. He told him, yeah, get in line with the rest of the people, asshole. That's the first thing they told the commission. Then he came into the office, and Don said, what is this bullshit? He threw it down. So I ain't fought you. Hell with you, man. I've been here 50 years. You come tell him, you don't tell me what to do in my business. I went, I just shook my head. I was sitting there. I couldn't believe it. I went, Don, I just told you. You don't know what the hell you're talking about, kid. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And pissing off Bruce Anderson was not the right move.
No one. No.
You did not have, and maybe still don't have, high thoughts of Bruce Anderson in the commission during that time.
Well, let me tell you why. What kind of guy would do this? Okay. He passes all these rules. He says that you got to take a drug test, you have to take an age test, and a blood pressure off. That's fine. So me and my wife at that time, which wasn't the same one, poor Katie, she was living there, and we decided. He said, "I need to speak to you in the office." Some reason he called me up to talk to me, the commissioner. All right, so I had no idea why he wanted to talk to me. I knew it's something about wrestling, I guess, right? So it was like a Sunday, I believe, and we were off for some day for some reason. And it's to ride with me because they have those stores out there in close to his office, like those I forget what you call them, those different department stores. They had that place out there close to Salem where everybody go, you know. And
Sure.
it was new at the time. And so she got to ride with me and we'll go by and see him. I'll take you over. She said, okay. So she went with me. We're going to sit in his office, run his desk. He goes, I said, so Bruce, what do you need, man? He goes, well, Lenny, I don't know how to tell you this, but your results on your aid test came back and they were positive. And I went, what? I looked at Kate. She looked at me. I went, what? I was just kidding you. Son of a bitch. Oh, I got so pissed. I said, you idiot. Who does that? What kind of person does that to anybody?
Yeah.
With his wife sitting there.
No.
Right? And he's a wrestler, especially. Right? I go, oh my God. Yeah, my whole life flashed in front of my face. I mean, you son of I cussed him. I said, you know what? If you weren't an old bastard, I'd come across that desk right now and kick the hell out of you. That's bullshit. I got him just walked out, you know? So then it wasn't 2 weeks later that I broke my thumb in Eugene, right? Working with Steve Dahl. And I went for a clothesline. For some reason, I had my thumb sticking out. I don't know why I never do that. And his head hit right on the tip of my thumb. It went all the way to my, oh, it hurts. I was about to throw up. I was so sick. And so, of course, I went in the dressing room, and the guys had a lot of pity. They're like, oh, God, look at this. Oh, my God, it's about broken thumb. You know, Matt Bourne was there, so you can imagine. So anyway, Saturday night's the next night. That was Eugene. Saturday's the big money night. I taped the sucker up. I ain't missing the money, right? My bad hurts. So I went out there and worked whatever. And Bruce Anderson seen the tape and then sent a letter to the next Saturday. I came down through a letter in front of me. When I sat down, he goes, what? He said, look at that. That's your great commissioner. He goes, you're a great commissioner. It's always like I brought the guy in or something, booked him. I go, oh my God. So I open it up. He says he's going to find me. I forgot how much it was, $250, I think,
Yes.
for a excessive tape. And so I go, what the shit? He said, and so I called and Don said, you didn't call him. You didn't call the asshole. Something. He said, you paid it, not me. You're paying it. You're the one. I said, Don, I taped it up. And he said, I don't care. No, you should. So anyway, Don didn't. So I went there. I called him. He said, well, I want to meet with you. So I had to go back and meet him again. After that one meeting, I went, this time I'm going to knock him out. I'm thinking, right? I go and I sat down. We had something to eat. And he says, well, I said, what, brother, what? I'm trying to make a living. $250 is a lot of money to me at the time, right? He goes, it is now. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and suspend that fine. I said, well, why'd you have your hands taped up? I said, because I broke my thumb. He goes, I should fine you again for that. You're supposed to let a commissioned doctor know. I go, oh my God, Bruce. He said, okay, I'll just go and waive it. Don't ever do it again. It was just pitiful. He had so much control over us. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
He could do nothing to draw money, you know?
But, and the tape issue, and that's where selective enforcement with the WB came in later. If you go back and watch the first episode of the commission issue here on Portland Wrestling 2000s, as I always say, like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single moment of great Portland Wrestling 2000s action. And with some of those rules were about the clothes that people could wear and the tape and the different things. And if they wanted to enforce a rule because they got pissed off, they absolutely could, which is why we wanted those rules to be changed. And
they said if you use a chair, you use a table, then we can cancel your license, promoter's license. Or if somebody's bleeding, you don't stop the match, we can pull your license. It's like they just destroyed anything. Like, you know, that's what people come to see. This is pro wrestling. R-A-Z-Z, whatever, R-S-S, wrestling, not real wrestling. They're using chairs and tables to excitement, get the people going. Just like Don Koch used to say, pandemonium and mayhem, brother. Right? It was cool.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned Matt Bourne a little bit earlier, and there's also in Portland wrestling legends, the night that he went on television after the Banning the Blade had come in, and he said that there was going to come down because next week he guaranteed there was going to be blood. And sure enough, next week there was blood. And the commission suspended Don Owens for 1 week, his license for 1 week. And so there was no Portland Wrestling television for that week, which looking at the landscape of wrestling, that's a big deal when you don't have wrestling to promote for the next week.
Big time.
And what was Matt? What was that scheduled, or was that just
No,
Matt?
Matt did that on his own. Matt, that's the way Matt was. He wouldn't listen, and you know how he was. He did it on his own. Don Owens, why did you? Don thought I told him to do it. I said, Don, I didn't tell that idiot to do that. He won't listen to nobody. You know what I mean? It's the way he was. You know, he wasn't business. You know.
Yeah.
He did what he wanted to do.
And Matt Bourne, though, when he came in, he worked for us at the Portland Wrestling 2000s. There is a whole Matt Bourne episode on the Portland Wrestling's 2000 channel. You guys can be sure to check it out because it's a great worker. He came in, he did great stuff, was not a problem at all. And so rest in peace, Matt Bourne. We do miss him.
No, I mean, later in the years, he got better. He was, you know, but then he was, well, sometimes it's hard to put up with him, you know. I was with him in Charlotte, too, and he was hurting everybody. I remember him and Bud Sawyer, they were tagging up, they were hurting everybody, right? So I'm wrestling, me and Sweet Hansen are in a tag match with him in Spartanburg, South Carolina, him and Bud Sawyer. And Sweet started taping it. Sweet Hansen, I don't know if you know, he was 6'5", 330 or 360. He's an ex-pro boxer, and he had features like Andre. I swear he was a freak. And he started taping his hands up, and he told the referee, Tommy Young, he said, come here. Is you go over there and you tell them two butt assholes, I said this, if they hurt me or they hurt Lenny out here, I'm knocking both of them out. Not one. Now if I have to chase the other guy all the way to the dressing room, I'm knocking them both out. And they come over there before the match. Hey, sweet brother, look, they're all like kissing his ass. Hey man, give him the office, all that. See, you know, they were bullies, you know what I mean? Both of them. I like both guys. I got along with them because they knew I wouldn't take no bullshit of them, but they were bullies to everybody, you know, like Billy Jack Haynes, same thing, you know?
Absolutely.
You know?
And so with no blade, some of that, getting that excitement is a little bit difficult. You mentioned John Nord, and you and Piper had started booking. Again, there's some Roddy Piper episodes on the Portland Wrestling 2000s. Another guy who came in and helped me, and like the Grappler did, Ed Moretti, so many veterans came in and helped get the promotion off the ground. So be sure to check that out. But you and Piper start talking and come up with something new. And John Nord comes up with this idea of the Breakfast Club. And for fans that don't know about the Breakfast Club, let's take a short look at what the Breakfast Club was coming to the ring.
Got to cost the Grapplers some money. He's leveled the referee twice now. That's got to cost him money or suspension. You can't go around laying out the referee.
If it's Sandy Boy, you can.
Oh, no, it's... Look at Grappler.
I told you. These two guys ran together for years.
And there's not
like I said, most of it was from the law. Don Cost, most of it was from the law. These guys are deadly men. They're not...
There's not a thing
that... There comes Dora with a shopping cart.
What's going on now?
I don't know. Maybe Adam's hungry.
Look at Barbarians throwing...
Do they have food delivery at the sports arena now? This isn't like Domino's, is it?
What is...
Cheerios,
no.
milk.
Crushed flakes right on the chest of Brian
Cheerios
Adams.
and milk.
Oh, come on. This is ridiculous. Look at this.
This crack.
This is absolutely insanity. This is insanity.
I think I get this. You see, Adams is a big mama's boy. He's a big milk-stop, crybaby, sissy mama's boy. And so they're giving him his Cheerios and his milk. He's a little mama's boy, and he needs a little breakfast cereal for energy.
Where are you coming up with this kind of crap? Well, we got milk, we got cereal all over the place. Brian Adams about drowning in gallons of milk out there.
I've never heard of anyone drowning in milk, Don Cost.
Well, you look out there right now.
I think it's pretty funny.
The Barbarian, he's smashing those containers of milk down across the head of Brian Adams, and I'll tell you, that hurts. That's a container full of milk coming down across your head, and as they're breaking open over the body of Brian Adams, we've got cereal, we've got milk, we've also got, wait a minute, we got Styles now. Styles is coming, all right, it's about time. Now there's a strap match.
What's called over
there? There's
a
strap match, my friend. Oh, lay it on him. Carl Styles and Nord the Barbarian. What in the world's going on out there? Welcome to the Breakfast Club, Brian Adams. Let me tell you something, Don Cost. How do you like the Breakfast Club? It's like this, baby, Huey, Brian Adams. You're nothing but a no-good crybaby boy. So I'll tell you what we done. We gave you some milk and Cheerios for breakfast, Eddie. How do you like that? Hey, listen up! Snap, crackle, pop! Welcome to the Breakfast Club! Listen, you know something called Styles and Brian R. Adams are just a pair, brother. They're a couple of crybabies. They're mama's boys, and they shouldn't be in wrestling, and we just proved it right there. Hey, boys, this is the Breakfast Club. Anytime, it's just like a buffet. If you want to come back for seconds, get all you want, Jack, because we're more than welcome to give it to you. Welcome to us, boys. Have hand, will slap. Wait a minute. Don Owen has a comment here.
Say here, you guys are just getting impossible. The way this thing is going, you're getting more out of control every darn week, and I'm getting sick of it.
It was unbelievable. I'll tell you how that happened. I was booking the TV. I'm trying to figure out on a Saturday sitting at home, and Johnny's sitting there. He never was helped me book the TV. He was more interested in watching TV or eating or something, right? So, but he was there staying, and so I'm trying to push the Lenny. He goes, he says, hey, I tell you what, man, we can't use tables, we can't use chairs, we can't do nothing. We wrestled Brian Adams. You got him tonight. Let's tie him up in that strap match, and let's beat the hell out of him with milk and Cheerios. I go, what? What are you talking about, Johnny? He goes, you ever been hit with a gallon of milk that ain't open? I go, no. He goes, now where he got hit at? He said, it hurts like hell. I go, so I went, you know what? I thought of I can't think of it. Let's do it. I said, you get a basket now, a shopping cart. He goes, okay, we got it all figured out. Don didn't even know we were going to do it. We didn't even tell him because I knew he'd tell me no. I said, don't say shit. Don't say nothing to Don Owens, right? So I got him, and would come time bumping the rep. Sandy would never. You watch that match, I'd hit him like 2 or 3 times. Stay down, asshole. We finally got Brian tied up. And here comes Johnny, and the people, they went crazy. I loved it. But it was like Gallagher with the watermelons, you know what I mean? You can't do it too often because it ruins the match, you know what I mean?
And how did the guys take it? I mean, all of a sudden, they've probably never been hit by open or by closed jugs.
Well, we told Brian what was happening, and Brian goes, well, okay. I said, Brian, I don't know, man. Johnny said, he said, we ain't got nothing to lose. They were the same as us. We can't do nothing else. He said, hell, do it. I don't care. And so I said, don't say nothing to Don, you'll cut it off. So we're all ready. And he knew it was coming, And I didn't realize we had bruises all over. I didn't realize the gallon milk would sting you that bad. It will.
Well, and Don not knowing, and knowing the old school that Don was, who didn't like a lot of gimmicks. And
right.
So how did Don react when he saw that? And did he say, let's do that again? Or was he like, let's...
No, he cheered my ass. He said, I should fire your ass right now. I mean, he went crazy. I said, Don, just wait and see what happens next week. And the house was up, so he shut up. But he reamed my ass out. You know what's going to cost me to clean that mat? I'm going to take it out of your pay. It was always something he's going to take out of my pay every time I turned around.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a unbelievable match. Again, the whole match is going to be up on the Portland Wrestling 2000's YouTube channel here. There was just a portion of it that we showed you, and from there, as people can go back and look, Don Owen stopped in 1991. Portland Wrestling at the WB started. Lynn was one of the real foundational people to help me get that going. Piper was there, Moretti, some of the veterans. Then some of the young guys that we brought in really helped get it going. The commission tried to step in and say, no, you can't do it. And of course, that led to House Bill 3581 with entertainment wrestling coming in. And then we went off and we went to Portland Wrestling, went to Comcast at Cleveland National Guard Armory. And I'm going to tell one quick story. Maybe it's not quick, but I'm going to tell one more story about the Grappler, who's old school. When you talk old school, this is old school, and I'm going to put a picture up here. There it is. It's the grappler and me, and you can see the bandage in the outside of his mask with blood. So Lynn had a number of matches where he had got juice, and we did post at the Comcast studios, and he had bled on Saturday, and this was on Monday night, so everything had pretty well healed up a little bit. But to do the post, he wanted to show that he was still injured, and so me and Nate, the cameraman, are setting everything up, and he's got his mask, and we say we can just put some red stuff on it to make it look like it's blood. An old school guy, Grappler, he takes he goes, oh no, and he takes his knuckle and just busts it back open till it bleeds through the mask, puts the bandage on, because that was old school. You didn't.
Harley Race would have been proud of me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, can I plug a couple things, Frank?
You may.
Okay, I was going to tell you and the people that not September 14th, in February, I think it's February 12th, we're coming to Portland for a fan fest. It's going to be at the Holiday Inn over there. I don't know if they're starting to plug it this week, I think. We're going to have a lot. It's going to be it's going to be the 100th-year anniversary of Portland Wrestling Fan Fest. And there's going to be a lot of guys. We're talking to Scotty the Body, Mike Miller, the Top Gun, all the guys that were around are still alive.
Ricky Santana.
Ricky Santana, the Grapplers going to be there. And so it should be a real good show. And it's going to be, they're going to have some matches the next night with some independent crew, but I don't know. But the Fan Fest is at the Holiday Inn. I think it's the 12th or 12th, I believe it is. I have to look back at my calendar. It's in February, though, second week, and that weekend. And should be a good show. And then if anybody wants to buy anything from me, go to eBay. I got an eBay site, too.
And I was going to put that up. In fact, I will right here. Here's some of the stuff that Grappler has for sale. It's great stuff. If you're a collector, this is the kind of stuff that you really want. And then on Amazon, this book, it's one of the best wrestling I've read. I can't tell you how many dozens and dozens of books. I
appreciate that.
But it is a Grappler, Memoirs of a Masked Madman. Worked with Joe V at KPTV getting this book put together. It is a great read, great stories. Well, so when Lynn and I were booking, and he was doing more booking than I was just listening, sitting in my living room, going over the TV. We were planning to do 4 weeks at a time, which is a lot different than doing 1 week at a time. And
yeah.
So he's telling me story after story after story, and they are in this book. And I'm telling you, you need to buy this book. It's on Amazon. It's the Grappler.
Joe V's going to be over there at that show too. That reunion thing we do. We're trying to get Barry Owen as well. I talked to him. Yeah.
And quick Barry Owen story was Grappler and I. We wanted a cage for Portland Wrestling because he was doing some a very bloody. In fact, here's a picture of Grappler after the Roman Gladiator match with Ed Moondog Moretti. Look, that is as bloody as you can get. But we needed the cage. So Grappler and I go down to Barry Owen's house just outside Eugene. The cage from Don Owen is actually out in a field with grass growing through it. And we picked it up, got it cleaned up. But as we're talking to Barry, his wife comes out and he looks at us and goes, kayfabe, like he never stepped up to the business.
I know, unreal. It's unreal, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's crazy. But I said we want to come back to Jim Cornett. So you and Tony are the Grapplers, very successful. Excuse me. But you're going into a new territory. And instead of being the Grapplers, you're going in as the Dirty White Boys. And Cornett talked about what a smart move that was, because that territory had a number of really successful masked tag teams. And so this made you guys really stand out because you look completely different. Was that a good move? Was Cornett actually right this time?
No, yeah, he was right. But what happened? The reason that happened was because we were there as the Grapplers. And Eddie Martin was helping run things with Jerry Lawler, right? And so we're there on in Memphis, on TV. I'm sorry, it's Saturday in Memphis, and doing TV. That's where you shot your angles for Monday night at Memphis Coliseum. And so he comes to me, and you're working with the Bruce Brothers coming up Monday night. And he goes, "Okay, then you got 2 minute or 2 or 3 minutes, as long as you want to go, interview right at the top of the show. and then one in the middle, a coat near the end. He goes, talking about you and the Bruise Brothers, hair versus mask. And I go, oh, really? Monday? Yeah. So, well, who's shaving their head? He goes, this what? I said, who's shaving their head? Because Eddie, I'm not taking the mask off, and Tony ain't either. We've been doing this, built this reputation. Now we ain't taking it off just for Memphis. He goes, well, look, we'll discuss it Monday. So I went out there and I said, there's no way in God's green earth. I said, everything I can think of, this mask is not coming off. I promise you. You can call my mama and sit at ringside. Mama, I promise you, all that stuff, right? And so when we got there Monday, Eddie goes, well, look, here's the thing. You start pulling it, you slide on your belly, and the guys will be out there and cover you. I went, no, it ain't happening. So he goes, finally come down to, well, I guess you're fired. I said, well, get my check. I went over there and Tony's already dressed. To get undressed, we just got fired. But I waited. I know how Memphis office was. I waited till the matches started. Then I walked out and waved by the people. I wanted to tell them I was chicken, didn't show up. Okay. And then we got booked. We left after 2 weeks. They gave me a notice and I went. And then we went to Texas. I forget where around. Then Jimmy Hart called. Jimmy Hart thought of the gimmick. And it was the best way to come back. I thought it was a good idea. And with that, back then, here's what's so different. They had videos like the Fabulous Ones had one, and very few people. They give us one. We did one in back of what's that place where Elvis, Sun Records, in the alley behind Sun Records, where Elvis did his first hit, and they had him Harley and all that. The Harley didn't even run. We're just sitting on it, right? But anyway, we had a video. And it got over, and it was good. The Dirty White Boys. I didn't really like that gimmick because I'm more of the wrestler, the grappler, my style. But that's more of a biker type thing. It just didn't click with me. I could do it, but if somebody come walking up to me at the ring, going, "Hey, what kind of bike?" I run the dressing rooms. I don't know nothing about Harleys, right? The gimmick with the Dirty White Boys was good for that territory. It worked good. You know what I mean? You're asking me. But Jimmy Hart's the one thought of it. You know?
And nobody had seen you without a mask, so it wasn't like, oh, that's really the Grappler, because nobody had seen you without your mask.
They'd never seen it, yeah. So that it got over, you know. But the only thing is, man, you go back and look at that video now of the Dirty White Boys. I don't know if they were thinking of the woke society. I mean, I don't know, bro. It looked pretty bad.
That was, yeah.
Nowadays.
Hey, and before we leave here, Grappler, I listened to Jim Cornett and in his podcast, and you've had some great managers. You were with him, very young. Jim Cornett was with you. You've had Jimmy Hart as a great manager, and Don Carson,
yeah,
as a manager. But Jim Cornett always talks about the Midnight Express, any grouping of them, as being the very best tag team ever in the history of pro wrestling. As the Grappler, as the Grapplers, what do you have to say to Mr. Jim Cornett?
Well, first of all, Jim Cornett, you come across like you're an authority on tag team and wrestling, and I've never seen you lace a boot in your life, okay? All right, brother, that's the first thing you need to know before you can pick who's the greatest tag team. Now, I know Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey are a great team. I give them credit for that. Bobby Eaton was one of the best, and Condrey too. You couldn't top them, okay? And a great tag team. But now you're getting to the top level, the top shelf. You're talking about the Grapplers, me and Tony Anthony, okay? We beat everybody they know in professional wrestling. We went all over the country, brother, and we didn't call nobody. So you know what, Midnight, Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton know if they were still – I seen Dennis Condrey last week. He come over and shook my hand because he's a gentleman. You know he should have, okay? Bobby Eaton would have done the same thing. And I'll tell you one thing, brother, you can take it to the bank, and they better remember this right here, okay? They got a name for you when you're the greatest wrestlers in wrestling today. They don't call you great wrestlers. They call you the Grapplers. Beat us if you can.
Oh, those are some strong words from the Grappler to Jim Cornett. I look forward to seeing what Jim has to say about those comments. But once again, fans, it's Frank Culbertson here on the Portland Wrestling 2000s YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single moment of great wrestling action. Be sure to look at all the videos that are done. You're going to see the Grappler take on Jimmy Superfly Snuka at Kaiser Stadium in a tremendous battle of real veterans. And then you're going to see him battling a number of other teams with Dr. Luther of AEW. You're going to see the Old World Order, Ed Moretti and Buddy Wayne, Nick Wayne's dad, and Samito turn on the Grappler, leave him laying, and then you're going to see the Grappler leave Scotty Mack with 28 stitches in his head with that orthopedic boot, one of the most memorable nights in my life at Portland Wrestling. Lynn, thanks for being here. I appreciate it, and safe travels for your next one. And we'll put up that information about your book at eBay and promoting the February 100th anniversary.
I'll see you in February, Frank. I hope when I get there, okay?
We'll go out and have a beer or 2 or 5.
Sounds good, brother. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Lynn. Wrestling fans, thanks for joining me here on the Portland Wrestling 2000's YouTube channel. Don't miss out. Be sure to subscribe and like the channel. And we'll see you next time on Portland Wrestling 2000.